So, Pete, that leads us to our top 5 movies that scared the shit out of you. And for our viewers and listeners, our our criteria is pretty what's the word? Very
Simple.
yeah, very simple. Like think of it like the movie that really scared the shit out of you.
Just
Uh,
messed you up.
yeah. So some of these movies may not hold up per se, but at the time they did the job. So that's how I judged them, how I felt then versus because some of these newer movies actually are scarier, but they're the eighth iteration of something, so it's not quite
Sure.
as scary. But yeah, so you started the first list, Pete. So I'll go ahead and start this one. Okay, Pete. So my top 5, and again, I want to very, very reiterate that this is when I watched it. So some of these movies I watched 5, 10 years old. Obviously, I think sometimes those movies have a bigger effect on you than when you're
Sure.
watching a movie at 20 or 30. So my number 5. This is gonna be a sneaky one, but I remember watching this film, and this was like the first time where they did this kind of like cut frame, like the jittery and all that stuff. And we hadn't really seen that in a movie before. And so that movie's House on Haunted Hill.
Hmm.
And again, it's really just for like a couple scenes because they get how freaky they are, and they're in the security cameras like walking by, and it was just terrifying. So that is my number 5.
Okay.
Uh, my number 4 is actually a movie I did not see as a kid, but I did see it as an adult, but it's still creepy. And that is The Shining. And, Shining is one of the great horror thrillers of all time, just in general, probably one of, just as a pure film, but it's definitely spooky, messes with your head, the whole nine. And so that is my number 4. My number 3 for a lot of people may be number 1, and that is The Exorcist. The
Hmm.
Exorcist, the themes, all that stuff. That had never been on film before. This was really the first film that I even know, like just from older people as well, like really the first film that legitimately just scared the shit out of people.
Yeah.
In the 30s, like the horror films were the Warner Brothers ones with Frankenstein, Dracula, and all that stuff, and those weren't really like scary. Um,
No.
I know like Alfred Hitchcock like hit a bomb or something like that under a seat, and it terrified people. So, but The Exorcist is just one of the in history one of the scariest films that's ever come out. My number 2 is the film where people legitimately stop going to the beach, and that's Jaws. And kind of the same thing, its impact that it had. And I remember obviously feeling the same way. I mean, I saw it when I want to say 5. I was
Yeah.
not old, but it
We
it
were
definitely
young.
affected me around water. And even when you're in the ocean, you see a little fin, like you're messed up. And so I think for a lot of people, Jaws gets up there. Now, obviously, I don't think it holds up as well in today, but again, when we're just talking about pure how this movie made us feel and how it affected our life, for me, Jaws is up there. My number 1 film is probably the first film where I was legitimately scary. And I think at this point I had seen Friday the 13th, and that was creepy, but I could handle it. And Nightmare on Elm Street, kind of the same way, I could handle it. But the movie It
Hmm.
is a film that just absolutely freaked me. There's just the psychological aspect of it, because those other 2 films, are 2 of the classics. Even Halloween, if you want to throw that in there, but it was just psychologically just on another level, and it wasn't even that well done because it was like a TV movie at the time.
Yeah. Yeah. That
And
was the
that's why the
crazy
new
thing
one,
about it. It was a made for TV movie, and yet it that movie messed me up forever.
and people don't like that ruin people's things with clowns. I mean, people would see clowns and it would mess them up. And so I think the new one is probably more just does a better job at it, like in terms of better filmmaking in general. But the original, no film ever made me legitimately scared watching a film. And
Yeah.
I just remembered an honorable mention, but go ahead and give us your list, Pete.
Well, it and The Exorcist were tough to leave off of my list, but equally as horrifying for me growing up.
Yeah, and
Um,
let's also, for our fans, you could put Bugs Bunny movie here, and that might have scared the shit out of Peter. Peter, growing up wasn't known to be like, hey guys, let's watch these, let's watch that. Like, Pete wasn't allowed to watch a scary movie after like 8 o'clock. Like he had rules like a gremlin.
it still happens to this day. Like I don't watch anything horror at night. Like it's always during the daytime
Yeah.
because I have the rest of the day to kind of forget about it a little bit, and not be as scared. But it's true. Like I couldn't sleep afterwards. I was so scared.
Yeah, I remember Nightmare on Elm Street, I think specifically.
No, it was
You were
Friday the
not-
13th.
It was a Friday the
Saw
13th.
it. It was at
The Mead's house.
it was at the Mead's house.
Yeah.
The older kids were watching it, and then I sat in for about 10, 15 minutes, and
I was watching it. I was allowed to watch it just because
me.
I wasn't as scared as you were, but don't
They
get me
locked
wrong,
me-
it was good, but yeah.
They locked me in a room after that, which explains so much. I will say I have a 5A, and it's only because it's a recent film, but I couldn't really put it in my top 5, but it's really good, and it really freaked me out, and it's Hereditary.
I heard it's good. I haven't seen that one.
It just kind of messed me up a little bit that hearing that one little sister just making that noise just out of the blue, and
Yeah.
it's creepy. So my number 5 messed me up. I saw it in the theaters when it first came out, and I think I saw it 7 times in the theaters because I like to torture myself. Was Arachnophobia.
Ooh, that's sneaky good.
Messed me up. I've always had a fear of spiders, and this movie just elevated that to the next level.
Yeah, that's a good
In
one.
the same way that my number 4, like you said, Jaws, it eliminated going past the first 2 waves at the beach. After that, forget it. I'm not going anywhere near it. I won't even go on a boat unless I absolutely have to because of Jaws. Jaws ruined open water for me. Number 3 for me is The Shining. It was the first time I saw, like, little kids freak me out either way in horror movies, but this was the first one, and there was 2 of them, and they messed me up for good. The music in that movie was just like these long notes just drawn out, and it was a frightening movie. Number 2 for me was Insidious. And when I first saw that one, it had so many of these like really freaky sort of moments that you weren't expecting. If you watch it a second, a third time, you know why they did what they did. But the first time you see that creature right behind the guy's head, and I literally jumped 5, 6, 7 times in that movie, and I got really freaked out. Number 1, like I mentioned earlier, is Sinister. That movie is just the scariest movie I've ever seen.
I got to see 1 and 2. I haven't seen either of those ones.
Watch them during the daytime, but they're both very good. Sinister and Insidious. Don't watch the number 2s and 3s on those because they're not as good. But Insidious had these like weird moments where you're looking at somebody and then all of a sudden, they like have this like creepy smile pop up on their face and like tilt their head like really fast, and it's just frightening. It's chills up and down.
Yeah. I mean, another honorable mention for me would be Saw. But to me, like Saw, the reason why I didn't put Saw over House of Haunted Hill, because again, like what Saw did, House of Haunted Hill kind of did it before. So again, that's the other one, Amityville Horror. And I never saw the original. I saw the Ryan Reynolds one, but that movie again kind of just really threw me for a loop. And I saw that. That was one of like the older films that really kind of disturbed me.
Yeah.
Or I'm sorry, one of the newer films as I was older disturbed me.
Even movies like The Grudge and The Ring, like you were talking about with House of Haunted
I almost
Hill.
put The Ring on mine. Yeah.
They do those weird, creepy movements, and like those always freak me out.